All right. Well, hi everybody. Well, we'll just start off with some team introductions first. My name is Jacob.
Philip.
I'm Ann.
I'm Susanna.
Veronica.
And we are Team Terry, which is not only just the name of our structure, which is on our shirts, and has been in attendance to all of our team meetings and living in my backpack the last 9 months, but also stands for our team values, which stand for Together Empowering Resilient Regional Innovation. And with that today, we're super excited to take with you all on our journey through our experience through RFL and our Civic project, which was with the Colorado River Valley Chamber. We'll start first with a little bit of background with the Chamber itself, an introduction to our project, the establishment of the technical and adaptive challenges, and then working through the logistics of the team dynamics, how we work together through the series of the past 9 months, Terry, and then finally closing out with some lessons learned and some hopefully insightful Q&A. And so with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Philip.
So first, what's a Chamber of Commerce? None of us were very familiar with the Chamber. Chamber is a business association or a network that brings together local businesses to promote and protect their interests. Typically, chambers are non-profit. They can be funded by membership fees, revenues from organizing events, sponsorship, or revenues from tourism, like the bigger chambers in the Valley, Glenwood and Aspen. And some of their key activities, they advocate for businesses, they provide networking opportunities, they promote economic development in the community, provide education and resources for small businesses, and sometimes they get involved in organizing events. In a nutshell, they play a crucial role in fostering thriving business community in their area. So our sponsor, the Colorado River Valley Chamber, it's a regional chamber. They serve the communities of Rifle, Silk, Parachute, and Battleman, Mesa. That's about 21,000 residents. The principal economic activities in their region is agriculture, energy production, retail services, and outdoor recreation. CRVC is a very small organization. They have a board of directors, consists of 9 members. Our sponsor, Larry, is the chairman of the board. They have office staff, just 3 part-time office staff. They have a Hispanic local leadership committee and some volunteer that actively promote the chamber in the community. Currently, they have 139 members, and it represents just a wide variety of businesses from financial services, healthcare, nonprofit, retail, energy sector. So they originally started as the Rifle Chamber of Commerce. They were receiving their funding for running the welcome center at the local rest stop, but when they move out, the rest stop, the public funding stopped, and they became a chamber that's solely funded by their membership and also by organizing events. And since the CRVC started, they've been organizing a lot of events. And it's primarily been what they call in the Chamber of Commerce lingo a 3P chamber. That stands for parades, pageant, and parties or pancakes. And so they do a lot of promotion for their members, organize galas, give awards, and organize events. But when the COVID pandemic happened, that really put the 3P Chamber of Commerce model to the test and show the limitation, because all of a sudden they were not able to organize any events, so they almost went out of business during that time. But after after the pandemic, the chamber bounced back, and now they are looking to reinvent themselves in a more resilient and sustainable organization. They want to become or remain relevant for their members and the community for the future. And with this, I will pass it on to Jacob.
All right. So as many of you all alluded to in your previous presentations and in your projects, there's obviously been another layer to what was presented with us. Whenever we first received this project, we had the challenge of increasing membership benefits and looking strictly at that. And though through the exercises that we did through RFL, through the establishment of our project charter, developing our elevator pitch, having conversations with our project sponsor to get to know more about them and the chamber itself, we began to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and see that there's more to this. And this provided, it was one of our first dilemmas actually getting the project, because I will admit, I don't know if any of you saw our faces when they awarded projects. We were the only team that didn't get our first pick, we didn't get our second pick, we got our third last pick. We were all mad. We were like, I think we were all gonna walk out. You all had your walkout moments of your first. We're gonna walk out at the project. We're like, okay, we're done. And so that was something that was extremely disappointing at first kind of level glance. But as we began to have these conversations and dive into more, we began to have excitement and see like, oh, okay, there is something here. There's an opportunity for all of us to learn and expand and actually have a much more impactful approach to this project. And much of that ties back to all of the information that we presented to you right here in the beginning to give you some context of, it's not just looking at, okay, if you do these things, your members will be happy, kumbaya, you'll make money, we're good. It's very much looking at the culture of the organization and seeing that they're still doing this transition from this 3P chamber, which is focused on this marketing surface level aspect, into a more dynamic organization that's focused on community collaboration, being a catalyst for services and a collaborator. If I could go to this slide, please. Thank you. And really digging into these principles and not just saying that, oh, we're a 3C chamber, but how does the Colorado River Valley Chamber actually embody these principles? And through dialogue, we were thankful to have a really involved sponsor who was really passionate and saw the value within RFL and saw the value within each and every one of us of what we could bring to the table to establish a framework that we could do moving forward, which was, let's look at for ideas and inspiration. Where can we actually take this? It was very much kind of a good canvas where we could just start throwing paint at the wall and see what was sticking. With that, we then came up with a framework game plan that talked about, looking at what's beyond just the Colorado River Valley. And so what we've ended up working with, and then my colleagues will share a little bit more in the weeds of, is developing a case study analysis report that looked at different economic chambers, 3C chambers across Colorado and also outside of state as well. And then taking those findings and developing that into a report of recommendations and taking all these idea generations and saying, here are the principles and here's some of the ideas that you can do to really embody this 3C chamber framework for y'all to move forward. And with that, I'll hand it over to Z to begin talking about how we started to fit in as a team dynamic into this broader piece.
Awesome, great. So thinking about kind of us as a team, values and code of conduct, it sounds like similar to all of you, we really spent the time as we were getting to know each other to really reflect on like how we would all like to show up in a meeting and what that all looks like for us. And so we kind of developed a list of values that are really important to us, and we kind of went over that every time we met to really commit to those values and to show up like that as well. And then thinking about our disc profiles and our listening profiles, we do not have a D in our group, and so that was interesting. And so we also spent some time to look at like our disc profiles as an individual and then as a group, and where we might need to kind of like flex to different areas and then where we may have strengths. And I am a major I, and so like same with the big ideas, and then with S's and C's, I feel like easily we could get looped into this like agreeing circle of like, yeah, that sounds great, and then it was like hard to kind of take that next step. And so sometimes we would even verbalize in a meeting, like, okay, I'm gonna take a more D stance, and that's awkward to kind of like flex outside of your zone. And so I feel like by verbalizing that made it less awkward for everyone. And so we could kind of show up and say, today we really have to make some decisions, so I'm gonna take a leap and try to be uncomfortable and, act in a D today, yeah. And then same with our listening profiles. It sounded like that was all a really big session for all of us, learning more about how people listen and how they may interact or kind of related to body language. And so that was really helpful for all of us as well, because we were able to kind of take all of that information and start switch our mindset to see someone and maybe understand a little bit differently as to why they may be interacting in a certain way or may not, and it's because of how they are like interpreting information and processing it and then kind of moving that forward. So that was really helpful for all of us, and we really tried to kind of bring that up during every meeting. And then same with frequency and structure of meetings. We had one location where we met, which was really, really helpful. And I think that created some sort of like commonality and consistency. And then same with food. I know we're all hungry for lunch, so sorry we're talking about food, but there's a takeout place in Carbondale, it's called Beijing Tokyo, and that kind of became, we were like, they should sponsor us, because we actually got takeout from there every time we met, and that was really fun, because I think it added like a sense of camaraderie to our team, and we all have really, we're working a lot, and then kind of adding 2 hours of totally on time, mental time and mental energy to that, and so having food as a sense of like as fuel to our meeting was really helpful. And then working with our project sponsor and advisors. Unfortunately, Larry can't be here today. He has been so awesome. I was the liaison, and so working with him, and he really allowed us to, he had some goals of how he wanted this project to turn out, and at the same time, he was really open to new perspective. He brought up that word a lot in all of our meetings, and it was really great to communicate with him, and he was really excited to see where we could take this project. And then with our advisors, Beth, Jason, thanks so much for being here. You guys are awesome. It was really great working with you all. I feel like you kind of have that ability to jump in and give us advice when we wanted to, and then also take a step back and really trust that we wanted to trust the process and figure our stuff out on our own. And so it felt like a really we feel really lucky that we were able to work with everyone that was very communicative, and yeah, so that's kind of establishing our team dynamic. Cool.
And then working through the Civic project and RFL, some of the things that we did that worked well for us was at the beginning, we did establish that framework. We had our boundaries set. We kind of worked through a lot of scenarios at the beginning too, like, because we all expected, I think, we were waiting for the blow up. I think all of us were waiting for this big blow up, but I think because we had played scenarios out and how we would handle those scenarios, we didn't ever have that big blow up, which really helped. And I think having that meeting place was huge. And then I was traveling from Battlement Mesa to Carbondale for the meetings. And so I knew that I was gonna be hangry by the time that I got there, and I didn't want to have to bring a Snicker bars and turn into that other person, so so yes, we had food at every meeting, and we just we set some boundaries and stuff for ourselves, which was great. And then when we had some challenges come up, because weather happened, people get sick, or I had a car issue, these guys were great about getting a Zoom set up so that I could jump in and be far away, and then still, be able to continue on with the meeting. And just realizing if somebody couldn't show up, that we would fill them in and bring them up to speed and stuff. So we really had a fabulous team. Everybody just worked well together, and again, can't say enough about our sponsors and our advisors. They were wonderful.
To add on to And I think one thing that really helped from the very beginning, as has been mentioned by Zeke, by all of us, is we were just so strict on like our processes and our structure on how we wanted to function as a team, keeping each other accountable. And this all came through like the Google Drives, the meeting templates, our collaborative documents like our charters, our 30, 60, 90, which was something we created, I think in January, we created a 30, 60, 90 day plan, and we wouldn't leave each meeting until we had the next 30 days. And then we went all through the 90 days, and in every meeting we would go back and just make sure that we were on track for the next thing. It was so tedious, but we were so adamant about making sure that we gave Larry our deliverable of what he wanted, which was, as Jacob mentioned, the Cambridge case study analysis and strategic implementation document. So that document itself, how that came to fruition was we took 23 chambers from all around Colorado and out of state, and we had a selection criteria of like 6 to 7 different questions. Things like, do you focus on tourism, or do you focus on small businesses, population size, how's your website? And each of us analyzed whatever the math is, like 3 or 4 from that. And then from there, we scaled it down to 9 that we thought would be more applicable to the CRBC. And that's how the document itself, the deliverable of this strategic implementation plan, came to fruition. That ended up being a 70-page document, more like slides, but I'm gonna call them pages. A 70-page document that we presented to Larry last Monday of just like, here is who you are the chambers that we analyzed, and then here are our recommendations for what the chamber can do moving forward. And he was very appreciative. He was just very happy with the team that he got, and just was excited to go back and present all of that to his board and just take what he wants from it. Our whole angle was really, we are definitely going to look at our scope and what we can deliver, and then it's up to you, Larry, and the chamber to decide what you want to do with this information. But that was, I think, what really kept us grounded the whole time. Just like, we added extra meetings, just in case we needed them. We had a 3-hour meeting like 2 weeks ago, and until we were finished with the presentation, we're like, we're not going to leave until this is done. And frankly, like this presentation that we're presenting right now, I think too is like, it's fun because we get to show that entire process of what that looked like, and it's wild to think that it is over. So with that, we're gonna go to, by the way, there we go. Lessons learned and challenges, and this is really all of us. We're just gonna share what we learned and if we had any challenges.
You're talking. I would say for me, it's this process. I think a lot of things that from my lens that I brought was kind of some of the structured tools. I came into this much more of I'm a very organized person, and I think through this process, I learned that the tools that I use does not define who I am and the dynamic of me as a leader and me as a person. And this process of having these tools to provide structure, but that there's change, chaos, momentum, motion, whatever you want to call it, is always constant, right? And we're all always in this very reactive mode. We're responding to this all the time. But it's kind of like this is kind of a weird reference, but I like sleep with a fan in the background, like to make white noise. And when you see like those things, like the chaos, the change, it's just the white noise, you can then kind of find calm, clarity, and stability within that. And this was a really productive exercise to see with all the different things that were being thrown at me, also still being very young within my professional career, and like taking these things and applying them every day, whether it was in my professional experience or in my daily like personal life, finding that and saying like, oh, okay, like this is a constant momentum and balance and a dance. But just because there are things that come out of the way, or there might not be a structure or initial response to answer that, that doesn't mean that I'm failing or not, adequate enough or responding to the situation at hand, and letting time and that constant, momentum and motion work itself through, and observing that, working with it and responding to it, and having a dialogue with that. So that was kind of the key takeaway that I took of the evolution of myself as a person, and seeing how really I could respond to the situations and the changing dynamics with other people or situations.
Yeah, I think also doing the team check-in and being very aware of our team, our weakness, our strength, was very helpful to keep us effective. At the beginning of each meeting, we would just check in and, like we mentioned before, seeing who may take a different role personality-wise, the need for the meeting, and also having kind of a regular ritual, sharing a meal, always meeting at the same time, in the same place, really help us a lot.
Well, I relied on my team a lot. I don't work with Google Docs, and they had my back on many times of being patient with me and kind, and so just being able to know that you can rely on the team. Each RFL session, I walked away learning something new, and not only trying to bring it to this team, but bringing it to my team that I work with. So I'm hoping that they're benefiting from the lessons that I've learned. So it's been an awesome experience, and I am so grateful for my team because they had to have extreme patience, even with getting onto the team Google meetings and the Google Docs. So thank you guys very much for your patience and kindness.
You did get to the documents though during our last meeting.
Yes,
I saw Anna and I was like,
Like in our little group chat, Anne asked a question of like, how do I do this? And then none of us responded. And then Anne was like, I got it.
5 seconds later, we all respond, great.
Let's see. I feel like I've learned so many things during this program, and it's been really transformative for me in a lot of different ways. I think like being an I feel like I have a lot of energy up front, and I come up with a lot of ideas, and it's fun to just kind of like brainstorm in that place and be really creative, and then when it comes down to like details sometimes is a little harder for me to focus on, and I definitely struggled a little bit at first of like figuring out, like knowing that this project was about us, and then also we're doing this civic engagement project, and so navigating like when to dive into that and then when to take a step back and know that it's about us and like the, you know, what deliverables do we need to have and that sort of thing. And so I feel like it was a big learning process for me of figuring out, you know, when to engage and have those ideas, and then when to take a step back and like let others speak up. And so I really think it was a turning point for me during the listening training, just because that was really helpful. I feel like I've had I feel like you're taught how to listen correctly, and that training really kind of changed my mindset around that, and so that's really helped me going forward of how to engage with people that may kind of process information differently or kind of interact differently, and so that was really helpful for me. Yeah.
On my end, so my background is in music education, and I am a hardcore S with a little bit of C. So my job is literally to inspire the kids of today and tomorrow to learn music and be creatives. And coming into this group, I remember our first meeting, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. This is so analytical. This is so detailed. Like, I am that way, but I am not to the rigidness that we did it throughout this entire process. So learning how to be very detail oriented and like super analytical and like stay on a very strict timeline was very hard for me as just as me as a person. And that's something that I had to learn how to be, and I'm so grateful for that experience because I think that taught me the balance of being selfless and being selfish, of the balance between those two. And I shared this with some of my peers earlier, but I have learned that balance of like when to take a step back and when to know that I want to present my voice. So being more in control of, is my voice needed right now, or has someone in the group already shared that and I just don't need to keep pondering on that. And that's helped me just feel, how can I say it? Like, I use the word defeatist, but I'm gonna change that. It's just helped me be comfortable with taking a step back and knowing how much of my time I want to give groups or different types of relationships, friendships, and being okay with that, and not feeling guilty So, and I shared too of like, sometimes like I'm a 110% person, and sometimes it's okay for me to be 60% and let others stand up and fill in the rest of that. I don't always have to be full force all the time. So that has been really healthy for me, and I really appreciate it. Cool. So we have a little goodie for everybody, and team members are going to pass it around, and we just ask that you don't open it until everybody has it.
And so we ended with Beijing Tokyo being at every
Yeah.
we
We
had
are
a
a little
ritual
tired.
before we left.
We are a little tired of it.
Yeah, but we had a ritual at every meeting. We would read our fortune.
That's so crazy.
So we wanted to share that all with you. Very
That's crazy.
So